Look at this.
On this edition of The Fifth Estate.
A ton of needles. Holy crow, look at that.
When it's easier for kids to get high than it is for them to get help, what's a parent to do?
You love me very much, right?
To watch your kid dying and knowing what's coming and not to be able to do anything is the most gut-wrenching feeling in the world.
We take you inside their struggle to keep kids alive.
What should I have done? It's a torment that doesn't stop.
I was so reckless with my drug taking.
Bull gang.
If I die tonight, whatever, that's just the end for me.
The parents feel that they have lost control of their own children with the support of government legislation.
I'm Mark Kelly in Victoria, BC. We're in a state of emergency, a health crisis that's killing almost 20 Canadians a day. Not from COVID, from opioids. And the victims are getting younger and younger. Last year, a 12-year-old girl overdosed and died here. But all across the country, parents are facing roadblocks when they try to put their own child into treatment. If the kid doesn't want to go, it's their choice. So tonight, we're asking, could tough love save lives? This is The Fifth Estate.
Victoria to all city units clear.
We want to find them before they harm someone else.
We're in downtown Victoria.
If we go to Pandora?
An urgent search is on for a teenager in trouble.
See somebody coming from the Pandora side?
This cop and this counselor are in pursuit.
I am on the west side, and I think I have a visual.
They know the suspect, a street kid and heavy drug user who pulled a knife during a robbery.
We have patrol officers actually dealing with the sort of the nuts and bolts of the call.
Has the purple vest.
They fear this arrest could end badly.
It's a pretty high-risk situation for both the youth and anyone around them. She's in custody?
She's in custody.
As they close in, they hear police have the suspect.
10-4,
What board?
Good. She's in custody and everyone's safe.
There's Chantal.
A tuft of pink in a sea of blue, and they're only 15 years old.
Hi. So they were just arrested for allegedly pulling a knife on someone and robbing them in the mall.
Back in the car, a call to the teen's mom.
So they've just been taken into custody, and they're safe. There may be some benefits to that, right? You know, they won't be on the streets, they won't be using.
For some kids, a jail cell is the best way to keep them from drugs, and an arrest may be the only way to get them into rehab. Shouldn't there be a better way? It's a question parents are asking across this city and beyond as opioids take a grip on kids like never before. That's what happened here. I come across a makeshift memorial for Olivia Mahaney. Known as Liv, she died here in this doorway alone with too many drugs in her system. She was just 17.
I had struggled with Liv almost like since she was about 3. She's had ADHD and anxiety.
Liv was one of 210 people in BC to die from drug use last November alone.
But then we finally got her on the right road and like the right school and stuff like that.
She was Sarah Paulner's only child.
Hey, baby, if you give it to me, I'll give it to you. As long as you want, you know I got it.
She's funny and spunky and feisty, and you know, she's my only child, and she was just full of life and happiness.
Where did you see things with her start to change?
Then she just started, like, I think it was when, like, about a year into high school. And then she hung out with a girl that was her best friend, and that girl had an older boyfriend, and then they started going downtown.
We tracked down Liv's best friend, Mika, who was with her the night she died. They were hanging out here, a spot called the Whale Wall.
It's like a meeting spot. Yeah. It's friends, it's drugs, it's like just being around people.
But she was taking a lot of risks downtown.
Yeah, we all were. We all are, like, every day. It's crazy, every single day.
Why take the risks?
Because it feels like home.
Downtown, Liv found freedom and drugs found her.
I was addicted to meth. She was addicted to meth, she was addicted to heroin. And I couldn't save both of us.
And then just everything that I thought just came true. Just like took her like under 2 months for the streets to like take her.
2 months. That's how quickly our kids can slide.
Okay, so out to West Shore.
Yes.
Mia Golden and Gord McGee know what parents like Sarah are up against.
Have you seen Jaden lately?
Mia's a counselor, Gord's a plainclothes cop.
So we're just gonna go check in on her. The goal is always to be engaging with as many kids as we can.
And just be a constant for them.
Together they patrol streets, keeping an eye out for the almost 200 kids in their caseload.
What's your daily mission?
We're just going from one fire to the next, and we're, barely keeping above water because there is just the two of us, and we're dealing with many, many, many drug dealers, many predators, it's a lot.
What else have we got here? I've got...
Mia sees kids as young as 12 years old.
Okay, let's go.
Today, Mia and Gord are looking for a 17-year-old, same age as Liv.
Yeah, she was here about an hour ago. She was in bad shape, apparently.
They've heard she's sleeping here, along with her dealer.
I think she's with Kyle.
But it's hard to help when their hands are tied.
Yeah, because here, youth have to volunteer to be returned home.
There's nothing that we can do in the way the systems are at the present time to be able to compel her to do anything if she doesn't want to.
They can't intervene to get this 17-year-old off drugs or even off the street.
She had to consent, bottom line. And then they said their advice to me, the police, was to get her charged with a crime.
Why was that their advice?
Because she'd have a curfew. And then if she was out past her curfew, like a probation, then they could bring her home. I don't want her to have a criminal record. Like, I'm helpless. I can't, I felt so helpless as a parent to watch your kid dying and knowing what's coming and not to be able to do anything is the most gut-wrenching feeling in the world, to watch your child deteriorate in front of your eyes.
Now she uses heroin and she's overdosed, and her parents are frantic. I wonder if she's up at Tim Hortons. Yeah.
We can try.
Yeah.
Going that
okay.
way.
Yeah.
Back on their search, Mia and Gord want to make sure the teen is okay and give her parents some peace of mind.
Is that her?
I'm pretty sure.
It's about all they can do. But they come up empty.
So...
Yeah, not her.
Okay.
If you could have had the power to do what you wanted to do, what would that have been?
To have the right to put my child that has a mental disability and is addicted to drugs into a detox program. Mm-hmm. That's what I want. Because at least she would be she would be in the detox.
This year we've had way too many deaths of kids.
And when you hear about a death of a kid, what is that? How does that hit you?
It's hard because we feel really helpless. That's one of the struggles. You know, we're always looking for the wins, and we're always, because it's really important to keep that hope, but it can be overwhelming.
Here in BC, to get kids off the streets and into drug treatment, the kids need to consent, no matter what their age. In fact, across Canada, a physician's legal advisory group says the legal age of majority has become largely irrelevant when it comes to young people consenting to medical treatment. If the kids are deemed mature enough by their doctors, they can decide to consent to or refuse treatment.
What do you see when you look at that picture?
I see a very stoic, handsome young man.
Rachel Staples and Brock Urchuk think that's the wrong approach. It's been almost 4 years since they lost their fight to keep their son Elliot alive. He was just 16. Now they're fighting for change.
Elliot was our oldest son, and he was quirky, funny. He was a good academic student. He was athletic. He was a really good friend, a very good brother.
Curiosity didn't lead Elliot to using opioids. It was pain. An athlete, he was riddled with injuries. Over a period of 24 months and 4 surgeries, Elliot was repeatedly prescribed opiates by his doctors. And when the prescriptions ran out, he became his own chemist. Elliot's hidden addiction came out after he was hospitalized with a blood infection.
He got a pass to go to a movie. I returned him to the hospital at about 10 o'clock at night. That night, he had an overdose in the hospital, found non-responsive and blue. I have no idea what's happening with my son. He's not sharing with me what led to this overdose. Nobody has told me anything about his blood chemistry. What chemicals were in there? What's he using? Where's he getting these things?
What could a parent do? It was a tug of war between Elliot's right to privacy and his parents' need to take care of him. Though he was just a teen and struggling with addiction, Elliot was still calling the shots.
Because of the privacy laws in British Columbia, the Infants Care Act, if a child doesn't want a parent to understand what's going on with them, they can tell the physician, you can't tell my parents.
And is that what Elliot did?
And that's what Elliot did.
Boom gang. Boom gang.
When we come back.
Boom gang. Boom gang.
She looked at me and she said, if I find out that you're taking your son across the border against his will, that's considered kidnapping. I would be required by law to report this.
A relapse to me would be doing opiates every day. And currently I don't feel like I want that. But I do feel like it will happen. My problem hasn't been solved. It's basically a ticking time bomb.
If anyone knows the struggle of addiction, it's Liam Cooper.
I have to be concentrated on driving.
When the 21-year-old craves, he drives.
Kind of gives me a way to focus on something and not let my mind drift too far down the rabbit hole.
Back in high school, he was trading chocolate chip cookies for prescription opiates.
I just wanted to not feel the constant barrage of my anxiety
And it was in school where he met Elliot Urchuk.
Boom gang! Boom gang!
Then in high school, we just started hanging out. And he was kind of like on the same level as me as wanting to escape, wanting like his emotions or whatever.
But the bond that brought them together was the bond that tore them apart.
I was so reckless with my taking of drugs. It was just, I didn't care.
The last time Liam saw Elliot, they did some heroin in a restaurant bathroom. Elliot went to a party. Liam went home.
It just hit me so hard. That stuff obviously had a lot of fentanyl in it, more than we were used to. The next thing I remember, it's 10 o'clock and then midnight, and I'm sitting there thinking like, I just passed out. And around midnight, I was like, I am scared. I am gonna die.
Do you live with any kind of guilt that you were the survivor and he didn't make it?
Oh yeah, every day. Every day, I think, why am I alive? Why wasn't I the one to die?
How much you have thought about what could we have done to save our son? Have you said, if only we did this?
Book full of would've, should've, could'ves.
3 years, 7 months, 24 days, every night. You travel a road. The road has turns. You make a decision. Do I take a right? Do I take a left? Every day. What should I have done? It's a torment that doesn't stop.
With his brain hijacked by drugs, did Elliot really know what was best for him? After he was revived from an earlier overdose, Brock begged the doctor for help.
Please keep him in the hospital until we can fully understand what's happening here.
And have a plan in place.
And have a plan to address his health.
Yeah.
That was on the 12th, pleading. He was discharged 36 hours later with giving us a binder of pamphlets of different resources in town, all of which had waiting lists.
2 months later, Elliot was dead. In a letter to the BC coroner, his parents requested a public inquiry to address, among other things, the laws which they say rob them of parental authority to make critical decisions for their drug-addicted child. Elliots Story then made headlines across the country. That was in 2018. 4 years later, teens are still dying, and the law is still the same. So why can teenagers stop their parents from helping? That's a question I put to the BC government's child advocate.
Well, the reality is that it's a legislative right for the child to provide consent or not provide consent, to have other people notified of their medical condition.
When we're dealing with a child who's dealing with an addiction, who may be dealing with a mental health problem, I mean, this is a child in crisis. Why are we giving that child that power to say, I don't agree to consent. I don't want help?
It's tricky, because what we often see is young people have reasons for the information not wanting to be shared. For example, if a parent is notified, the child goes home, there could be some very severe consequences. So, many families that would not be the case, but nonetheless we have to be mindful that the young person has the right to determine who gets informed.
The Infants Act was designed to allow teenage girls to access contraception.
Dr. Tom Roszowski testified at Elliot Erchuk's inquest. He believes the law needs to evolve with the times.
It's been flipped around to, I'm going to say twisted, so that a youth can refuse care. That's never been the intent, but it's created this this gray zone where clinicians and the emergency room doctors are at the pointy end of this stick.
And when a drug-addicted kid is in crisis, many provinces have something called secure care, where a child can be held without their consent, but not in BC. There's been a burning debate in the province for decades, and still no consensus.
Doctors need some clarity, but also patients need protection.
Are these individuals really in any position to be making medical choices?
In our opinion, no.
Dr. Warshowski says a secure care law would buy time and help kids figure out safer options.
It's 2 to 5 days, maybe 7 days. Let the brain clear. Their prefrontal cortex, which is developing over time, will give them the capacity to right the ship. The worst thing we can do is sort of say, okay, off you go, better luck next time. In an effort to be overprotective of rights, to be extra cautious, we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. We've forgotten what we're here for.
And I guess what everyone's trying to figure out is how do we help someone who's in that position? What's the key?
I mean, for me, it would have been just understanding.
But who needs to understand?
The teachers, the principals, the parents, the doctors, anyone that's trying to help. They can't come at you and tell you this is what you need to do. This is what's going to help you. We're going to send you here. We're going to put you on this.
In the U.S., parents can go even further, putting kids under 18 into long-term treatment centers like this.
There's a 24-hour nurse staff here that specializes in withdrawal and detox symptoms.
Without their consent. That's what Rachel wanted to do. She believed tough love was the only option left to save her son. But when a social worker found out,
she looked at me and she said, if I find out that you're taking your son across the border against his will, that's considered kidnapping. I would be required by law to report this. This is my son whose life is at risk. That's when I just kind of went, what options do we have here? Yep. There was none.
Children are dying in BC. Mm-hmm. Right now, we need to imagine a new approach.
Absolutely.
So does that not involve something like tough love, where we need to crack down on the kids and say, we're going to do this for you? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that?
When young people are detained against their will, when they are forced into treatment, there is again a backlash. There's basically kind of a screw you phenomenon that ends up happening. So young people are not ready for the treatment and therefore they don't participate and engage in the treatment. And when they are discharged, then their tolerance is down. They are more likely to go back to the kinds of behaviors that they were before because we haven't addressed the underlying issues.
And this Elliot?
Yeah, so that's, his parents got those made when he passed away. And yeah, just
gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, so I like to keep that up in my house, and I actually, right below that, have his ashes.
Really?
That his parents gave me.
Here?
Yeah, in that container.
So, would forcing Elliot into drug treatment have saved his life? Perhaps the only person who could answer that question is his best friend.
It's just, people doing the drugs know what they need most.
No parent wants their child to be an addict.
Yeah.
Especially in the age of fentanyl, when being an addict could also be a death sentence.
Yeah, but at the same time, no kid wants to be an addict. I didn't want to be an addict. Whatever happened in our lives, we are here, and we don't know how to get out. We don't know where to go from here.
But that seems to be, to me, the perfect time for treatment then. If you don't know where to go and you don't know how to get there, then you need help.
I do agree with that, but the help is essentially abstinence.
So it's a different kind of help.
Yeah, it's not lock this kid up sober and let him go in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, however long, and expect them to stay sober. It should be revolved around making sure they're safe.
Look at this.
That's incredible.
A ton of needles. Holy crow, look at that.
When we come back.
Did you need a naloxone kit? We have the nasal ones.
If you can't force kids into care, what residents in a BC town are doing instead.
It's a cycle, yeah, and it's a cycle we're currently trying to break.
Just 60 kilometers north of Victoria, the city of Duncan, population 5,000. The opioid crisis doesn't discriminate. It finds kids wherever they are, and that has parents in Duncan on edge.
You know, we can make our beautiful home we call the Cowichan Valley healthy again.
It's early morning.
Let's move.
Let's go.
There's tension here as a group of locals sets out to take back their streets, one used needle at a time.
Look at this.
That's incredible.
A ton of needles. Holy crow, look at that. I'm gonna guess probably 40 to 50 needles.
Within minutes, Kathy Schmidt finds evidence of the problem that's dividing this community.
So that's your cooking kit. So that's what you cook your drugs with. So we've got alcohol swabs. So this is probably a youth because this youth has youth outreach cards.
This knapsack of needles highlights Duncan's dilemma, how best to save kids' lives.
Sometimes we hit the mother load and we're not really happy when we do.
No.
Lance, I want to go and dump some of my needles in the heavy,
right?
Because I'm full.
Okay. 4 or 5.
These needles are likely from the local overdose prevention site. It opened in 2017, a source of controversy ever since.
Okay, I'm just going to go dump my sharps container. That was a little bit fuller than I thought.
And then here's for when they cook up the heroin.
Not everyone agrees handing out these kits is the best way to keep kids safe.
All we're doing now is enabling, and that's a big word to me.
Joe Thorne is an elder with the Cowichan Tribe's First Nation. He led a protest after the overdose death of a 14-year-old.
And I asked, what's going on? And no one had answers. I got mad. I got really angry. And I made a sign.
He thinks people are too soft on drug users and drug dealers.
We went right to the homes of the people selling.
Drug dealers.
And we let them know that we're not taking this anymore. You're leaving.
And this is exactly what Joe worries about.
Good morning. Are you okay? Hey, I won't let anybody see you. Are you sure you're okay, hon?
For every needle, there's a story. A broken life, mental health issues, and few resources, especially for teens.
Are you okay? Yeah?
Yeah, so we know.
She's a teenager, right?
Yeah. So here's a prime example. We know she needs care right now. Anybody would know that. If we seen a dog wandering down the street right now and it had a tag on it, we'd pick that dog up and get it to the SPCA. Right? But yet, you know, here she's going to be sitting here and we're going to walk. There's nothing to offer her.
Well, I can see a naloxone kit in there. And they think that she's maybe 16 years old.
Yeah.
For now, local shelters don't accept kids under 19, and there are plenty of them on Duncan streets.
There's like zero support. We have kids counseling like crazy here. Cowichan Valley Youth Services have got a huge lineup.
And only steps away.
Is that more kids sitting out there? Jesus.
6 years ago, in response to the rise in opioid deaths, BC declared a state of emergency. But COVID has made matters worse, pushing addicts into isolation. So, is harm reduction the solution? Giving users a safe supply of drugs, more safe injection sites, more treatment options.
Hey, I know you. You're from the news.
I'm from the news. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. You guys okay?
Yeah. You're
People like Jaden. Well, we're just checking on, seeing how young people are doing. Can I ask you, how long have you been using?
Since I was 12 years old.
Since you were 12, and how old are you now?
I'm 19 now.
19.
I feel like I can't.
He says he lost touch with his parents and relies on the nearby shelter to get by.
Okay. The resources are okay, but when it comes to everything else, so many people are dying. What they can be doing better is like having somebody from the government office come and take a walk down here.
And what would they see if the...
What would they see? They'd see that this is actually a lot worse than they thought.
Do you see a day where you'll ever get clean?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I hope so.
You ever look at going for any kind of treatment?
Yeah, actually, I've tried numerous times. Wouldn't work out.
You take care, Jaden, okay?
Yeah, you too. Kid.
See you guys.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
How does that hit you?
It hurts. It really hurts. That could be my son, my brother. That could be anybody in my family.
Joe Thorne says kids like Jaden should be forced into treatment. But there are people who will say that tough love just isn't the answer.
To them, I would say, how do you feel going out at night? How do you feel about your kids going to school? How do you feel about their safety? Sometimes you gotta do things you don't like. I just get so damn mad at the way things are. And I think I see in my mind how things could be. And that I'm gonna keep reaching till I get close to that. Because there are parents out there that are saying, where were you? Why didn't you help me?
Next door to Duncan, the Cowichan Tribe's First Nation is taking a different approach.
Teresa, lunch is here.
These tiny homes are for addicts to keep them off the streets.
Lunch is here. There you go. Thanks. Do you need a spoon? It took me almost 2 years to finally say I work in harm reduction and I hand out kits and whatnot.
What do people think about people like you who are working in harm reduction?
That we're enabling them, really. That we're only enabling them, pushing them to do more drugs or overdose or anything like that. When in reality, what my goal is to try and save them until they're ready.
And that can mean teaching kids how to shoot up safely.
So this is what we hand out for our youth if we can't teach them quick enough. So the yellow spots are to avoid, green spots are safer, and red is dangerous. And it shows that on the back. Did you need an naloxone kit? We have the nasal ones. I'll have the straight tubes right now.
A larger proportion of Indigenous people die from drug deaths than anyone else, highlighting another barrier to help.
Did you want the?
Just the bubbles.
Okay, there's a couple. Did you need any?
When they are ready, what can you do for them to help them?
We do have detox treatments, but that's out of town.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we can offer right now is shipping them off to somewhere else for treatment or detox. So if they need it right then and right there, they have to wait and either get into, it's weeks.
And that could mean more lives lost. So, how is the BC government responding? In 2017, BC was the first province to create a Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions to lead the response to the opioid crisis. So the Fifth Estate requested an interview with the minister, Sheila Malcolmson, to discuss our investigation. We were told she's not available. BC has announced a $500 million investment in mental health and addictions care. The largest portion of that spending is deferred to 2023-24. BC's youth watchdog says more support should be available to kids, no matter how young, now.
I think it's government trying to figure out where are they going to put their energy and what are they going to work on first.
But the parents that we're speaking to are shouting from the rooftops, and they feel that they have lost control of their own children with the support of government legislation.
Yep, and I understand that. I sit with many, many parents who've lost their beloved children, and that is, I would say that the two most common refrains are, I felt like I had no say, and I felt like there was nothing for us. I kept asking for help and there was nothing for us.
I remember you from like a long time ago.
When we come back.
It's about getting help for you guys, right? And not judging you.
Getting to the kids before the drugs do. Listen to what's going on in this grade 8 class in Delta, BC. Today's lesson, a sign of a country in crisis.
In BC, in our province, there were 6 people that have died every single day from overdose. 6 people. So more than COVID, sadly.
The message is blunt. The next victim could be you.
It's about getting help for you guys, right? And not judging you.
Curtis Miller is a youth care worker who spent years in and out of jail before he got clean. When he talks, the kids listen.
How real do you think that is? Pretty real? So in my family, in November, my granddaughter died. It was the saddest day of my life. My granddaughter was 17 years old.
His granddaughter was Liv Mahaney, who died alone on the streets of Victoria.
So not much older than you guys, right? A few years older than you. And this is the reality of it. So like, it's not just other people.
If they're old enough to refuse care, they're old enough for some tough talk.
When we got into the classroom today and I looked around, I guess one of my first reactions was, boy, these kids are young.
Yeah. And to be honest and fair, and like, you know, I know that a lot of them are already doing stuff, right?
I heard a lot of messages today, but one thing I didn't hear was, don't do drugs.
Yeah, because it's not, if they're already doing it, how do you say don't do drugs? My job is not to condemn or to get them in trouble or anything like that. My job is to help them. That's the main focus.
Curtis is a survivor. At the age of 11, he was doing heroin.
Curtis grew up in a drug house. Violence and police raids were the norm.
This video tells his life story, part of a tribute to his overcoming adversity.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2013 Courage to Come Back Award recipient for social adversity, Curtis Miller.
I got hurt lots of times and
got shot.
Got shot and stabbed and, you know, did a lot of bad drugs. Everybody's here for a reason. Everybody's here to do things in life, and, you know, it's just maybe I needed to do that and go through that journey to do the things I do today.
It rebuilt a relationship with his daughter Sarah, someone he barely knew.
When you finally found me, I found out your name wasn't Alicia Ann at all. But it's Sarah. My girl, you have turned out so perfect.
But for all the good he's done for other kids, Curtis couldn't save Sarah's daughter, Liv, his own granddaughter.
And it's a difficult thing to, because it's your family and it's your daughter. Like, my daughter doesn't understand any of that. She didn't live that life.
This carving will become 2 swans. Sarah's one, her daughter Liv the other. Together, forever.
You know, my granddaughter is like, it's hard to say, like, what would have worked and what wouldn't have worked. We do drugs because we don't like the way that we feel, and we want to change it, right? So if you want to change that, if you want to change the way that in the big picture, then we have to go back and we have to start at the beginning.
Back in Victoria, a glimmer of hope as Councillor Mia Golden spots a familiar face.
I remember you from like a long time ago.
Probably 7, 8 years.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. A lot better now.
He's been in and out of custody, and he's done treatment a few times, and but he's always been like a really engaging, like there's, you know, and that's the thing with most of these kids, there's that sweet kid inside still. Oh,
Good for you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You got a relationship.
For me, that was a win to see him alive, still like, it, you know, he recognized me.
That's a win?
That's a win. It shouldn't be.
Another win? Liv's friend Mika is now getting the help she needs.
The only reason I got help was because my best friend died, but I couldn't imagine her dead, ever.
Mika's one of the lucky ones. A bed opened in a treatment facility. She's been clean now for weeks.
So how do you get those kids into treatment?
They should definitely be taken somewhere for a little bit. Like, just make them stop. Because they're killing themselves. And people are just watching. Like, drugs aren't happiness.
And for all the kids we've lost, will their deaths make a difference? Sarah never visited her daughter's memorial, now long gone.
It hurts me. It just, to me, it's a reminder of how everything failed and how she could just die there with her friends. No one noticed her.
But she hopes that bringing Liv's story to life can help keep other kids alive.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm Olivia.
And we're just making a video. And what do you want to say?
I'm 15.
I'm 42, and I'm a single mom, and you love me very much, right?
I love you too.
And that's just me and her alone, hanging out, and we love each other a lot, and yeah, that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
No? Okay, thanks. Bye. Say bye.
Bye.